Hello and welcome to Fireside Fairytales. My name is Rory and you are watching Varietal Literature's YouTube channel, a cozy little corner of the internet for narrative. And if you've never been here before, well, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy your time here. If you're not watching this live, down in the description below there will be timestamps. They'll take you to the beginning of the stories. We're reading 2 stories tonight. Both of them are about big, mean things. One about a troll, one about a giant. However, if you are here live, you should know that there is a live chat, and it is growing a little crop of potatoes right now. And I see that GS, Uncle Kitty, Tammy, and Jumstore are in there. It's very good to see you folks. Tammy says that she got vertigo. Well, what a coincidence. I did as well, which is the first time I've ever had it. That was a few days ago, but it was after being sick, which apparently sometimes happens. I see Uncle Kitty is here. Always good to see you. A bit of a migraine. Also a thing I had last week that I don't usually get. And Jumpstore is making a custard cream pie. Yummy, yummy. All right. Well, what are we doing today? We are reading old folklore and fairy tales. Specifically, we are reading from and continuing our progress through the complete Norwegian folk tales and legends of Asbjornsen and Mo, as translated by Simon Roy Hughes. You can get the physical book yourself at the Amazon link, which should be in the pinned comment below when this video is no longer live. Alternatively, there's also PDFs of this, which you can also purchase at Amazon, but you can also purchase it pretty much direct from, without any DRM or anything, from Simon at his, I'll have it linked down below. I think it's his coffee. Anyhow, it's an excellent book. This is just volume 1, and after like a year of reading it on and off, we're only about halfway through it. Whoops. So I am looking forward to many years of reading that. Anyways, that's what we're reading tonight, and tonight our 2 stories are about trolls and giants. It's a rendition of a giant I've not really seen before. It has some traits that I've not seen before. And it, if you don't know a ton about trolls, if your only insight on trolls was through like Lord of the Rings, I think the troll will be a little bit unexpected as well. It's trollish for sure, but just as a note, the trolls in Lord of the Rings were largely inspired by Icelandic folklore, and were a bit unique in how they went from there. You'll see what I mean when you hear it, if you make it that far. Anyhow, let's take a look at what we're doing tonight. I will say that the second story tonight, I could see it being an anime. I mean, you could probably say that about a lot of these. There's a lot of like anime, or a lot of, I should say, folklore DNA in anime stories. But there's a lot of folklore DNA in every story, so maybe that's not a very interesting or useful thing to say. In other words, maybe I should stop talking and start reading. Isn't that right? Okay. Well, nothing for it. Let's hear about some trolls and giants in old Norwegian folklore. Our first tale of the night is called The 3 Sisters Who Were Taken into the Mountain. And it comes to us again from the complete Norwegian folktales and legends of Asbjornsen and Mo. And this is the volume 1 annotated edition, which I do recommend. Yeah. Just check one thing here. There was once upon a time an old widow who lived with her 3 daughters in a remote village tight by a hill. She was so poor that she owned nothing but a hen, and this she held as dearly as the apple of her eye. She clucked for it and tended it both early and late. But one day, just like that, the hen disappeared. The wife then went searching and calling around about the cabin, but the hen was and remained gone. "You must go out and try to find our hen," said the wife to her eldest daughter. I like that she's a widow, but she's still just called wife. When does she get her own identity? So the daughter went out to look for it. She went both hither and thither, searching and calling, but no hen did she find. Then suddenly she heard from within the mountain wall, "The hen trips in the mountain. The hen trips in the mountain." She went over to see what it was, but by the mountain wall she fell through a trap door, deep, deep into a chamber, well beneath the earth. And down there she walked through many rooms, each one finer than the other, but in the innermost an ugly, great man of the mountain came to her. "Will you be my sweetheart?" he asked. Romantically. That's my own edition. "No," she said, "by no means." She wanted to go back up and look for her missing hen. But the man of the mountain grew so angry that he took her head and he twisted off, threw both head and body down into his cellar. Her mother sat at home, waiting and waiting, but no daughter returned. She waited a good while longer, but as she neither saw nor heard anything of her, she told the middle daughter to go out looking for her sister. "You can call for the hen at the same time," she said, and the second sister should thus go out. And things went just the same way with her. She walked and she called, and suddenly she too heard from the mountain wall, "The hen trips in the mountain. The hen trips in the mountain." She thought this was strange and wanted to go over to see what it was. And then she too fell through the trap door deep, deep down into the chamber. And there she walked through all the rooms, and in the innermost the man of the mountain came to her and asked if she would be his sweetheart. Well, no. She would by no means be doing that. She wanted to go up again immediately and search for the hen that was missing. But then the man of the mountain grew angry. He took her and he twisted off her head and threw her head and body down into the cellar, next to her sisters. And when the woman now sat for her second daughter too, waiting for her second daughter too, for 7 long and 7 broad, and no daughter was to hear or see, she said to the youngest, "Oh, well, truly, you must go look for your sisters. It would be even worse if we didn't find your sisters. You can always call the hen at the same time." Well, the youngest had to go out then. She went hither and thither, searching and calling, but she didn't see the hen, and neither did she see her sisters. At great, great length, she too came to the mountain wall, and there she heard, "The hen trips in the mountain. The hen trips in the mountain." This she thought strange. She wanted to go over to look, and then she fell down through the trap door, deep, deep down into the chamber. Down there she walked through each room, finer than the other, and as she was not too afraid, she gave herself good time to to look at both one thing and another. She caught sight of the cellar trapdoor too. She looked down through it and soon recognized her sisters lying down below, their heads freed from their necks. As soon as she had closed the cellar trap door again, the man of the mountain came to her. And there's a picture of him and her. If you're unable to look at the screen, it is the one in the icon for this video, but he's a great big flumpy man. His legs are a little shorter than you would expect, and his arms are a bit longer. He's got big knobbly fingers and hands. He's got a large lip that hangs open. His eyes look sort of piercing but empty, and he is furry all over. Well, not furry, hairy. He's got a great long beard and wiry eyebrows and a bit of a kind of gnome's cap that wilts over his head, and threadbare, battered clothing strung about his body. And he stands nearly twice as high as the girl who's in this shot, also wearing sort of maid's clothes or farmhand clothes of the time. Oh, I see Mr. Kittenpelt's back. Hello, Mr. Kittenpelt. Good to see you again.
Will you be my sweetheart?
Asked the man of the mountain.
Yes, I will,
said the girl, for she understood well enough how things had gone for her sisters. When the troll heard this, he gave her fine, beautiful clothes, the finest she could have wished for, and anything else she wanted. So glad was he that someone would be his sweetheart. However, when she had been there a while, there came a day on which she was even more downcast and quiet than usual, and the man in the mountain asked what she was so sullen for.
"Oh," said the girl, "it's because I can't go home to my mother. She's certainly both hungry and thirsty. She has no one with her either."
Well, you can't be allowed to go to her,
replied the troll.
But put some food in a sack. I'll carry it to her.
Indeed, she thanked him for this. She would do so, she said. But she put some gold and silver at the bottom of the sack, and then she put some food on the top, then told the troll that the sack was ready, but that he must by no means look in it, and he promised that he wouldn't. And when the man of the mountain left, she peeped out, watching him through a small hole in the trapdoor. And when he had gone part of the way, he thought,
"The sack is so heavy. I'll look in to see what is in it."
And he began to loosen the bands. Then the girl cried, "I can see you! I can see you!"
"Though there are some damnable eyes you have in your head, then,"
said the troll, and he didn't dare to try that again. When he arrived at where the widow lived, he threw the sack in through the cabin door.
"There, you have some food from your daughter. She wants for nothing,"
he said. And when the girl had been in the mountain for a good while longer, a billy goat one day fell through the trap door.
"Who is it who sent for you, you shaggy beast?"
said the troll. Oh, sorry, that was the troll, not the girl. He was terribly wild, and he took the buck and twisted off its head, threw it down into the cellar.
"Oh, no! Why did you do that?" said the girl. "I could have had fun with it down here."
Well, don't need to start whining," said the troll. "I can soon bring life back to the billy goat, I can."
And with that, he took down a jar hanging on the wall. he set the billy goat's head back in place and smeared what was in the jar on it. And then it was just as good again. Ho ho, thought the girl. That jar must be worth something. And when she'd been with the troll a good while longer, she made sure the troll was out, took the eldest of her sisters, put her head in place, and smeared her with what was in the jar, as she'd seen the troll do with the goat. Immediately, her sister came back to life. The girl put her in a sack and some food on top, and as soon as the troll returned, she said to him, "Dear me, you must go home to mother with some food again. She's certain to be thirsty and hungry, the poor thing. She's alone, too. Now, remember, don't look in the sack." Sorry, see, I've lost my light here. There we go. Yes, he would go with the sack. He said he wouldn't look in it either, but when he'd gone a part of the way, he thought the sack was so heavy, and when he'd walked a bit farther, he wanted to see what was in the sack.
What manner of eyes does she have, if she can see me now?
He said to himself. But as soon as he began to loosen that sack to open, she who sat in the sack said, "I can see you! I can see you!"
Those are some damnable eyes you have in your head indeed,
said the troll. He thought it was she in the mountain who spoke, and dared not look down into the sack again, but carried it to the mother as quickly as he could. And when he came to the cabin door, he threw it in.
There, you have some food from your daughter. She wants for nothing, he said.
Now when the girl had been in the mountain for a good while, she did the same with the other sisters. She put her head on her, smeared her with what was in the jar, and put her in the sack. But this time she filled as much gold and silver upon her as there was room for, and right on top she laid a little food, which, if I may pause for a moment, I don't know if you've ever held a chunk of gold. It's not light. She's crushing her sister. I don't think she'd be dead, but she certainly wouldn't be comfortable. "Oh, don't worry, more gold. Could I go between the gold and food?"
Dear me,
she said to the troll.
"Now you must go home to my mother with some more food again, and don't look in the sack."
And there's a picture of him doing exactly that, starting to look in the sack. Uncle Kitty says silver bars aren't very light either. No. Yeah, it's a picture of him seated on a hill with his short little legs. I mean, they're not short. He's a taller than anybody, but short proportional to his body in this drawing. But he's looking in the sack like he's sort of peering into a small gap. Yes, the troll would satisfy her in this. And he promised, too, that he wouldn't look in the sack. Wouldn't even consider it. What would make her even think that he would. But when he'd gone a part of the way, the sack grew terribly heavy, and he thought, "Ooh." And so when he had walked even farther, he was simply exhausted, and he had to put down the sack and take a breather. And then he wanted to loosen the fastenings and look inside, but she who sat in the sack cried, "I can see you! I can see you!"
Those are some damnable eyes you have in your head, too,
said the troll. Then he dared not look in the sack any more, but hurried as quickly as he could, carrying the sack all the way to the mother. And when he came outside the cabin door, he threw it in.
There, you have some food from your daughter. She wants for nothing,
he said. And when the girl had been there a good while longer still, and the troll was going out, she pretended that she was miserable and sick, complaining and carrying on. "It's no good you're coming home before 12 o'clock, she said, "for I won't be able to ready your food before then. So miserable and ill am I." When the troll had well gone, she stuffed her clothes with straw and set this straw girl in the corner by the hearth, with a stir in its hand. It looked as if she herself were standing there. And then she hurried home and brought a shooter to stay in her mother's cabin. I know from the end of the story, basically I think she means like a hunter. Somebody who was going to be good at firing a weapon. When it was 12 o'clock, and even more, the troll came home.
"Bring the food,"
he said to the straw girl. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't really know straw girls to talk, so of course, she didn't answer.
"Bring the food, I said the troll again. "I'm hungry."
Oh, but no. She didn't answer, as Hay is wont to do.
"Bring the food,"
the troll screamed a third time.
"Listen to what I say, or I'll waken you, so help me."
No. The girl just stood there. As still as a stalk of hay. And then he grew so angry that he struck her, so that the straw was spread about the walls and ceilings. And well, trolls are not very smart. But when he saw this, he understood it was a trick. He wasn't quite that dumb. And so he began to search both high and low, frothing in rage. Finally, he came down into the cellar, too. There were both of the girl's sisters gone. He understood straight away how things had gone.
"Yes, she would pay,"
he said, and began on his way to where the mother lived. Now, when he arrived at the cabin, the shooter shot, and the troll dared not go in, thinking it was thunder. He set off for home again, as quickly as he could, but no matter how quickly he got to the trap door, the sun streamed down upon him, and he burst. And there's certainly still enough gold and silver in there, in the troll's home. If only one knew where that trap door was. Now, if you're familiar with trolls from Lord of the Rings or Icelandic tradition, you might be a little surprised to hear that he exploded when the sun came. And indeed, that's, I would honestly say, probably the more common thing. Or at least that they would, evaporate or melt or something like that. The idea that they turn to stone, I don't see very many places. Though I will admit, I find it narratively the most interesting, because to say a troll turned to stone allows you to sort of point at a stone and say, see, it used to be, blah, blah, the monster troll or whatever. Yeah, there you go. In this one, it explodes. It's not the only creature that does that, too, in the sun, as we might see later. All right. Let me get a little bit of water, and we'll carry on. Our next tale is called Of the Giant Who Hadn't a Heart on Him. And it also comes to us from the Complete Norwegian Folktales and Legends of Asbjornsen and Moe, as translated by Simon Roy Hughes. This is the first volume of the annotated version. You can get the physical copies on Amazon, which will be in a linked in a comment down below if I did things right after the video's live. At the very least, you can get the PDFs direct from Simon Roy Hughes through his Ko-fi link. There's a little shop there. There was once upon a time a king who had 7 sons, and held them so dear that he never could be without all of them at the same time. One always had to be with him. Pretty needy man. When they were grown, 6 of them wanted to go a-courting, but their father wanted the youngest to remain at home. The others would bring a princess to the king's farm for him. The king gave them the finest clothes anyone had ever seen, and they gleamed even at a distance, and each had a horse that cost many, many $100. And thus they left. When they'd been to many kings' farms and looked upon the princesses, they eventually came to a king who had 6 daughters. Such beautiful king's daughters as they had never seen, and so each proposed to his own princess. And when they had made them their sweethearts, they traveled home again. They simply forgot that they should have with them a princess for poor little Askeladden, who remained at home, so lost were they in their sweethearts. And as a reminder, if you're new to this stream, if you've not heard any of Asbjornsen and Moe's tales before, Askeladden is basically a male version of the name Cinderella. And it stands as a placeholder. When these stories were collected, they may have had a name or it may have just been called the boy. But either way, they tend to, the collectors themselves and translators and whatever else, would often just put in placeholder names. So we see Askeladden a lot, which basically means ash lad or ash boy or low boy. And it implies a kind of low stature, low expectation, the person who pokes the ashes. It's a little weird here because he's a prince. But take it up with his Bjornson, I think, is the one who used to put Askeladden in. Anyhow, the brothers are returning home with wives, but none for him. And this art I will describe in a moment. When they had traveled a good distance of their way home, they came close by a steep mountain wall where a giant's farm was. The giant came out and saw them, and he turned every one of them to stone, both princes and princesses, and indeed the horses they rode upon. Now, I've never heard of a giant turning people to stone. I don't know if you have, chat. Let me know if you know any other traditions that do that. That's a new one to me. Gorgon powers, basically, in a giant. And that is what this picture is. If you can't see it, I will describe it. In a silhouette in the back, about the size of a half mountain, is a great big giant with his arms stretched out against a setting sun. And then there's a rider, a set of riders shocked to see it and turning to stone. You'll notice that if folks are looking at this line of riders stretches far into the distance and looks like several hundred people. And that is true. The stories don't talk about this feature of travel for royals at that time, but they basically moved with like a country's worth of people. Not a country, it's like a small village worth of people moved with them. So that would be accurate. The king waited for his 6 sons, but for all his waiting, not one returned, being stone, of course. He mourned, and he grieved, and he said he would never properly be glad again if I hadn't have Sorry. Do this one more time. This is the king.
If I hadn't have had you left,
The king said to Askeladdin,
I would not want to live. So sorrowful I am at losing your brothers.
But I was thinking of asking leave to go out and find him again, said Askeladdin.
No, you may not do so, said his father. You will only disappear too.
But Askeladdin needed to go, and he begged and he pleaded for so long that the king had to let him. Now the king had nothing more than an old nag for him to ride, for the other 6 princes and their entourage had taken all the other horses he had, but Askeladdin did not care about that. He mounted the old flea-bitten horse. "Farewell, father," he said to the king. "I shall return, and perhaps I shall have my brothers with me too." And with that, he left. And when he'd ridden a distance, he came to a raven lying in the road, flapping its wings. But it couldn't manage to fly away, so hungry it had become. "Oh, my goodness! Oh, give me a little food, and I'll help you in your direst need," said the raven. "I don't have much food, and you don't look much able to help me either," said the king's son. "But I can give you a little, for it looks as if you need it." And so he gave the raven some of the food he had with him. And when he traveled away farther, he came to a brook, and there lay a great salmon that had jumped onto dry land, and it twisted and turned and couldn't get back into the water. "Oh, my goodness! Help me back into the water!" said the salmon to the king's son. "I shall help you in your direst need." "The help you give won't be very much," said the king's son, "but it would be a shame for you to lie here and starve to death." And so he pushed the fish back into the water again. Now he traveled a long distance, and then he met a wolf, and it was so hungry that it dragged itself along as it lay. By the way, this is by far the weirdest one.
Oh my goodness, let me have your horse, said the wolf. I am so hungry that my bowels whistle. I haven't had a meal in 2 years.
I'm going to say that to someone next time I'm describing I'm hungry. I'm so hungry that my bowels whistle. I haven't had a meal in 2 years. "No," said Askeladdin, "I cannot. First I met a raven. I had to give my food to him. Then I met a salmon and I had to help him back into the water. Now you want my horse? That is no good, for then I won't have anything to ride on."
Yes, my dear. You must help me, said the Grey Shanks. You may ride on me. I shall help you in your direst need.
It said, "Well, the help I'll get from you won't be much, but you may take the horse, I suppose, since you are in such need." What about the horse? We're in a land of talking animals. Surely the horse has an opinion. Just in the background, this horse being like, wait, what? Now that the wolf had eaten up the horse, Askeladdin bound its jaws with the bridle and laid the saddle on its back. And the wolf had grown so strong from what it had eaten that it set off with the king's son as if he were nothing. He had never ridden so quickly before.
When we have ridden a little way farther, I shall show you the giant's house, said the Grey Shanks, and a little time afterwards they arrived. Look, here is the giant's house, it said. there you see all 6 of your brothers, whom the giant has turned to stone. And there you see their 6 brides. Over there is the troll's door. Will you go in?"
"No, I dare not," said the king's son. "He'll kill me."
"Oh no," answered the wolf. "When you go in, you'll meet a king's daughter. She'll tell you how you should act so that you may make an end of the giant. Just you do as she says."
So Askeladdin went in, but he was afraid. The giant was away when he entered, but the king's daughter sat in one of the chambers, just as the wolf had said, and Askeladdin had never before seen so beautiful a maiden.
"Oh, God help you! How did you come in here?" said the king's daughter when she saw him. "It shall certainly be the death of you. No one can make an end of the giant who lives here, for he doesn't carry his heart on him."
"Well?"
"I have come here, so I may try, try anyway," said Askeladdin, "and I shall surely save my brothers, who stand in stone outside. I shall try to rescue ye too."
He said,
"Well, since you are determined to stay, then we shall have to find a way," said the king's daughter. "Now, you must crawl under the bed there and listen well to what I speak with him about, but be sure to lie very quietly."
He crept under the bed, and he was barely under before the giant came.
"Oh, here it smells of a Christian man," said the giant.
"Yes, a magpie flew by with a man's bone and dropped it down the chimney," said the princess. "I hurried it out, put it out, but the smell doesn't leave so quickly."
And so the giant said no more about it. I think it was like the 8th story I've seen that turn in, which isn't a complaint. It's a wildly specific thing that comes up so often. When the night fell and they went to bed, when they had lain a while, the king's daughter said,
"There's something I would like to ask you, if I only dared."
"What something?"
asked the giant.
"It's about where you keep your heart, since you don't have it on you," said the king's daughter.
"Oh, that is nothing you need to worry about. It lies beneath the threshold,"
said the giant, which is the doorway, the front door of the house, if you don't know that turn of phrase.
"Oh, we shall see if we may find it there," thought Askeladdin as he lay under the bed.
Well, the next morning, the giant rose terribly early, and you can tell your friends and family that trolls get up early. Terrible, ugly, horrible trolls. Normal Christian men sleep in. Folklore has the real morals. And rushed out to the forest. He was barely gone before Askeladdin and the king's daughter began to look beneath the threshold for his heart, but for all their digging and searching, they found nothing.
"This time he has tricked us," said the princess, "but we must try him once more."
And so, pondering upon it, she gathered the most beautiful flowers she could find and spread them around the threshold. They had replaced it, you see. And when the time the giant was expected home approached, Askeladden crawled under the bed again. As soon as he was under the bed, the giant came.
Here it smells of a Christian man,
said the giant.
Yes. A magpie came flying with a man's bone in its beak. Dropped it down the chimney, said the king's daughter. I hurried to put it out, but it smells of it anyway.
Well, the giant fell silent, said no more about it. But after a while, he asked who had spread the flowers around the threshold.
Oh, that was me, said the king's daughter.
What are they there for, then?
Asked the giant.
Oh, it's just, I hold you so dear that I had to do it. Now that I know your heart lies there, said the princess.
Yes, indeed. But it doesn't lie there, said the giant.
And when they had retired for the night, the king's daughter asked again where his heart was, for she held him so dear that she would like to know.
It lies in the cupboard there, on the wall,
said the giant.
Well then,
thought Askeladden and the king's daughter, we shall try it to find it there. And the next morning the giant was off early, rushing to the forest again. And as soon as he was gone, Askeladden and the king's daughter were in the cupboard, looking for his heart. Yet no matter how they looked, they found nothing.
Yes, well, we shall just have to try once more, said the king's daughter.
She decorated the cupboard with flowers and garlands, and as evening drew in, Askeladden crawled under the bed again. And then came the giant.
Hoo-choo-choo! Here it smells of a Christian man,
said the giant.
Yes. Oh, a little while ago, a magpie came flying with a man's bone in its beak. Dropped it right down the chimney, said the king's daughter. I hurried to get rid of it again. But that's what the smell is anyways.
And when the giant heard this, he said no more about it. After a while, he saw the flowers and the garlands, hung around the cupboard, and he asked who had done it. Well, it was the king's daughter.
What should this mockery mean?
Asked the giant.
Oh, I hold you so dear that I had to do it, for I know that your heart lies there,
said the king's daughter.
Can you be so foolish as to believe that?
said the giant.
Well, yes, I must believe it when you tell me, said the king's daughter.
You are the dimwit. Where my heart is, you will never come.
But it would be nice to know where it is in any case, said the princess.
Well, the giant could not keep it to himself any longer, so proud he was of the deviousness of his location. He had to tell her. Someone had to know. And what threat was she?
Far, far away, on a lake, lies an island, he said. On that island stands a church. In that church there is a well, and in that well swims a duck, and in that duck there is an egg, and in that egg is my heart.
Which is absolute top of the line A-grade folklore nonsense. Love it. It's basically a lich whose phylactery is a duck. Take that into your D&D game. Early the next morning, even before dawn, the giant rushed off to the forest again. "Well then, I should be going too," said Askeladden, "if only I find the way." He bade the king's daughter farewell, for the time being, and when he came outside the giant's house, the wolf was still there, waiting. He told him what had happened with the giant and said that now he wanted to go to the well in the church if only he could know the way. So the wolf bade him sit on his back, for he would surely find the way, he said. And then they set off so that the air whistled around them, over heath and hill, over mountain and valley. After they had traveled for many, many days, they came at last to the lake. The king's son didn't know how they should cross over. The Grayshanks asked only that he should not be afraid. And then he went out into the water with the king's son on his back. He swam over to the island, and there they found the church, but the key hung high. So high up on the tower that at first the king's son didn't know how he should get it down.
"You should call for the raven,"
said the Grayshanks, and the king's son did so, and soon the raven flew after the key, and thus the prince came into the church. And when he then came to the well, sure enough the duck lay there swimming back and forth, as the giant had said. He stood and called, and at last he leered it to him and grasped a hold of it. But just as he lifted it out of the water, it laid its egg in the well, and Askeladden didn't know at all how he should bring it up again.
"Indeed. Now you should call the salmon,"
said the Grayshanks, and the king's son did so. And then the salmon came and brought up the egg. Then the wolf said that he should squeeze it. Just as Askeladden squeezed it, somewhere in the distance, the giant screamed. "Squeeze once more," said the wolf, and when Askeladden did so, the giant screamed more pitifully and begged beautifully and at length for himself. He would do anything the king's son wanted, he said, if only he wouldn't crush his heart.
"Say that if he restores your 6 brothers, whom he has turned to stone, and their brides as well, he will save his life,"
said the wolf, and the Askeladden did so. Yes, the troll was soon willing. He turned the 6 brothers back into king's sons, and their brides into king's daughters.
"Now, crush the egg,"
said the wolf, and so Askeladden crushed the egg, and the giant burst. As he had now made an end of the giant, Askeladden rode the wolf back to the giant's farm. There stood all 6 of his brothers alive, each with his bride. Askeladden went into the mountain for his bride, and then they all traveled home to the king's farm. It was certainly a joy for the old king when all 7 of his sons returned, each with their brides. But the most gorgeous of all the princesses is Askeladden's bride, said the king, probably annoying the other ones. "And he shall sit at the head of the table with his bride." And then they feasted both good and long, and if the feasting hasn't ended, then they feast still. Courting just isn't what it used to be these days. It's all Tinder and digital stuff and hookup culture and all that. Back in my day, you used to work together with a woman who you'd never met before to figure out where a troll heart was and kill a troll. And if you killed a troll together, you know that it's made for for the ages. It's a love made for the ages. Do you have anything in common? Do you in any way want to talk to each other? Not important. It's the troll killing together that really determines the bond. All right. Well, there you go. We have trolls and giants exploding. What do you prefer out there? Do you guys prefer they turn to stone, or do you prefer that they explode? Do you think that Lord of the Rings would have been improved if as he talks to them, or not Lord of the Rings, Hobbit would have been improved if as he talked to him, sitting there in the clearing until the sun came up, instead of turning to stone, they just exploded gore all over the place. I think it would have been a bit of a different tone for the scene. All right. Well, JS prefers stone. Well, folks, I know we have a lot of people who aren't feeling great, so I hope you folks feel better this week. As for me, I will be back next Tuesday with more stories. But Jumpstore says I prefer to stay out of the splash stone. Oh, I meant to ask Jumpstore, what flavor of cream pie are you making? Just like vanilla or something special? Yeah, but as for me, I don't really have anything more to add other than to say that I always find it interesting to see the different ways that trolls and giants are portrayed. Because for all the things that they have in common, quite a bit in common across multiple cultural groups across Europe, they have such distinct differences. Vanilla bean, to be precise. Ooh, big money here. I don't know. Maybe you have a cheap source of vanilla beans. Sometimes you can get them pretty cheap. Sometimes they cost a small fortune. Anyhow. I think that's it for me, though. Thank you so much, folks, for joining me in the chat, or those of you who lurked. That's fine. Always good to have a good lurk. I had some very nice comments on some older videos this week. So if you're watching now, it really lifted my day to hear kind words about my storytelling. And beyond that, I hope the rest of you, Mr. Kitten Pelt, Jumpstore, GS, Uncle Kitty, Tammy, and anybody else who I may have missed or is lurking out there, get yourself a good sleep. I'll keep the fire going.